Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Reduce Your Risk, Discover Sensitive Data Unique to Your Organization with Sensitive Data Manager 9.0. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenters by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. I would now like to introduce our presenters, Rob Server, Senior Solutions Architect, and Gabriel Gums, Vice President of Product Strategy.
Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. And I'd like to thank Rob for also joining us today. Let's go ahead and get started. Excellent. Let's go ahead and get started, if you would. Be mindful of everyone's time. Slide, please. So really quickly, for those of you unfamiliar with Identity Finder, I just want to take a minute to give you a little bit of background. So we were founded in 2006 and we're based out of New York City. We are the leader in accurate discovery and automated classification, the foundation of all data security. Next slide. So here's just a quick sample of a few of our customers. We have many more, obviously, several hundred, in fact, but I want to share with you a few of the brand names that trust us, such as Boeing and Intel and Blue Cross Blue Shield, Barnes & Noble, so on. Just a small number of some of the brands that use us for their data protection needs. Slide, please. So our approach to managing sensitive data is to automate the process of classification, thereby reducing the burden on end users and automatically enforcing corporate data security policies. And the way we do this is by leveraging the results of our hyper-accurate discovery along with other attributes such as creation and modification dates, last access date, location, data owners, and other important attributes. That discovered data is then persistently classified and embedded with embedding tags within the metadata and alternate data streams of the solution. I apologize, of the data. Kind of getting ahead of myself. So what we want to do today, on top of sharing with you some of the latest and greatest attributes that 9.0 has to offer, is we want to be able to show that to you as well. So let's go ahead and forward 2 slides, if you would. I want to start by setting the stage and talk about the very foundation of Sensitive Data Manager.
Right, and AnyFind is that foundation. It always has, and it probably always will be. And it's what we use as a solution to look for and reduce the false positives you get shown in the screenshot on the left. So if you're looking for a credit card number, it's going to do more than just check for LUN or do bank binning. We're going to look for things such as context, expiration dates, CVV checks, sea of digits, etc. So the picture on the left with the false positive, that validates as a Visa credit card number. However, since it's buried within a sea of digits, has no context around that match, we will invalidate that match. It just doesn't make sense for that number to be a credit card number in that context. And that's how AnyFind works.
Excellent slide. So building on AnyFind, the ability to locate proprietary institutional data, on the other hand, that is sensitive data that can only be understood and identified by the owners and creators of that data, was the inspiration behind our sensitive data engine, which is new in 9.0. So let's go ahead and jump into our live demo environment, and we'll take a look at how Sensitive Data Engine allows our customers to accomplish this by building sensitive data definitions, a sort of intelligent search grammar that allows them to define the criteria to identify their institutionally unique sensitive data.
Thanks for that, Gabe. We have an example here we're looking at regarding what might look like HR data. Leveraging our AnyFind definitions, anytime we find a social security number that could be triggered as an HR match as a matter of fact. So we can anytime find a social security number, we can trigger that as what we would consider an HR match. But what about other use cases where you have weaker identity, such as irregular expressions? So if you're looking for employee IDs, or perhaps if you're in the health industry looking for MRNs or hospital codes, that may not be a stronger match, but it could be if you look for it in proximity to another type. We have the ability to look for things near or near with distance, proximity checks with other identity types, such as a personal address. When you find that employee ID near the personal address, we qualify that as a potential for a better HR match. Well, what about looking for collections of data such as driver's licenses, dates of birth, last names, first names, things that are typically difficult to quantify as an identity match? What if you find 4 or a collection of at least 4 of those all together in the same document? Then you have the potential for a better identity match. Another sample here would be looking for dates of birth and last names in a document, but you want to require some contact information such as a telephone number or an email address. Attaching one of those in conjunction with the date of birth and last name could be a stronger HR match. And we're looking at this document in its complete form. We're looking at the entire content, the metadata, the doc props, etc. Everything about that document is being searched. Now the next step in creating a good sensitive data match would be creating a definition that looks for that data and then looking for it in that context, such as looking for it outside of a particular scope. So if I find HR data outside of HR machines, then I want to know about it. If everyone has permissions on HR data, I know that should never be. So I want to know about that regardless of where it is. Let's look at aging out that data. We can look at the modified date. If it hasn't been touched in 3 years, well then perhaps we need to notify ourselves that that data exists and think about taking action on that data.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Rob. So when it comes to managing sensitive data, as you can see, part of the inspiration, again, for that sensitive data engine was to be able to expand out on the hyper-accuracy that any find had already been built, that was already built into Sensitive Data Manager, and give our customers the ability to now locate those data types that were unique to their environments. Now, locating and classifying sensitive data at scale is no small task, and mature organizations are going to automate as much of that process as they can. And sometimes other organizations will need to backstop that process with user-driven classification. So once we've defined our policies, we can then go about locating and enforcing those automatically. And this is where Sensitive Data Watch comes into play. Sensitive Data Watch has the job of monitoring environments for the creation or the existence of sensitive data and enforcing those same security policies that you saw Rob just define. Let's go ahead and jump back into our demo environment. And we'll walk through a scenario whereby Sensitive Data Watch is going to enforce the policies that we've now defined.
Excellent. So what you've seen me do is drag an attachment out of Outlook into a location that's watched and monitored by our solution. This could be a file creation. This could be any manner of creation for a document. What I've done is put this document in this repository. It's searching this document as we speak, and it's going to apply the classification rules in the top left-hand corner of the document when it's completed search document. As I said, this could take any form of action as far as how files are created.
And so one of the things is important to note here while that happens, I see it just popped up, is
there it is.
It's file creation, and obviously takes the form in a number of ways. So that could simply be someone copying files from a central repository. It could be the creation of a new file. Whatever it is that causes, or the action whereby some new type of data is then created on the endpoint, whether that's structured or unstructured data. And there it is indeed.
All right. So let's go ahead and create a new document. And go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, I was going to say, so oftentimes this takes the form in a working environment of someone, say, generating a report from a central repository. Let's say I have a CRM or an HR database or some research database, whatever the case may be. Users interacting with data, pulling data from multiple places. Maybe I'm copying information from one spreadsheet to another and combining that in such a way that I'm now creating a new document that would have sensitive information within. So Sensitive Data Watch, or watching the system, is going to watch for the existence of the change of, or the creation of data and apply both those data discovery activities based on the accuracy of any find, as well as the actual enforcing the actual data protection policies that we've defined as well. So what do you have there, Rob?
So we've had a detection of the SSN on this document as the icon has appeared per the rules inside my console.
Excellent. All right.
So let's see. That should take us back to here. And we talk about user-driven classification, correct?
Absolutely. So without automated classification, it's a non-trivial exercise to automate that process of policy enforcement. So what we just saw Rob build and actually execute on would otherwise need to be performed by actual human beings, by end users, which unfortunately is where some of the gaps in our data security policies can be introduced, but sometimes they're also necessary to either enhance and or backstop some of your automated procedures. And so some organizations will either perform these tasks manually, or they'll need to empower end users to classify those files manually. And well, let's jump back into our demo environment. We'll take a look at that. And so we're going to see how we can empower employees to add those data classifications based on set policies and alert them to the sensitivity of their data.
Sure, we can do that by using our Office application plugin. So we have plugins for all the Office apps, including Outlook and Word and Excel, etc. You can see the classifications on the file which I open on the desktop are displayed in a fashion, in a bar, and we also have the additional classifications available in app, so we can add additional classifications and they will be displayed as necessary. Save the document, the classification will be changed to the appropriate type. We also have the ability to take a look at these properties to see the classifications, apply them with a right-click context menu. In the file properties themselves, we also have this functionality inside Adobe. So we can open up the classification and show that these are also available, just like in Office.
Great. And so in this latest release of Sensitive Data Management 9.0, we incorporated the ability for user-driven classification to be part of the most widely used applications such as Office and Acrobat and right in Windows Explorer, as Rob just showed you. I want to take a quick second to answer a question that was asked. The question was, can the console show you the file that was just created that had the social security numbers in it? So that person's referring to the last scenario whereby end users are creating sensitive data as they do throughout the course of their day, or they're copying it from locations onto their machines. And yes, console would show you you would see the not necessarily the creation of just any file, but the existence of a file that had been classified with that information as that happens.
Correct. So any of the data that gets discovered is uploaded and displayed in the console. What you're seeing on the screen in the screenshot and in the demo environment was the endpoint agent.
Excellent indeed. Let's talk a little bit about user-driven remediation. So that is the ability for users to enforce those data protection policies that you have hopefully already defined, not just within the solution itself, but throughout your environment that sensitive data manager is now going to enforce. And the management of sensitive data absolutely begins with the accurate discovery and classification, but it needs to be coupled with remediation to drive risk downwards. And SDM has a number of ways of reducing risk associated with sensitive data once it's been identified. Some environments will have policies that state, as Rob kind of highlighted earlier, that certain data types aren't allowed to be present in those environments. So for example, primary account numbers in a non-cardholder data environment would violate PCI regulations, and so you may have a policy that states that HR data is not allowed to reside in the cloud. End users can take those actions upon themselves once they're alerted as to these violations of policies to enforce those data protection policies. Slide, please. Alternately, of course, we would suggest that you want to enforce these policies in such a way that doesn't burden end users to have to know, remember, and/or execute those on those policies. And so administrative remediation can take place automatically in the environment as well. Let's jump back into our demo environment and have a look at how all of this now comes together.
Certainly. I also wanted to add as an addendum to that earlier question, this is what the display would look like for results inside the console. This is the console display itself that shows all the relevant information you need.
Great. Good point. Thank you.
No worries. So let's go ahead and go through an automated remediation action. I'm going to copy this item into our watch folder, and I'm going to wait and see for that discovery to take effect. This will not display an icon. What will happen, as just happened there, is that the file will have been quarantined, in which case there's a stub file which has been replaced with the original document showing that it has been pushed off to a quarantined folder on our server that I configured for us.
And that stub file can be configured to contain any number of different, it's completely customizable. So, sometimes we'll have customers that will place direct links to their internal policies where users can learn more about proper data handling procedures alternately. And I don't think we showed this one earlier. If we have a chance, we can jump back and certainly show it. I was going to talk about the ability to execute basically any action, right? So you can have Sensitive Data Manager also execute a script, an executable. Oh yeah, there you go. Why don't you touch on that really quickly for me, Rob?
Certainly. So when we create a workflow rule that triggers based on your criteria, such as the definition of looking for the what and where, basically the context of the solution, coupled with the content itself, you can then decide to take action on that specific data set. In this case, we can do a quarantine, which is what I've demonstrated for you here, shred, delete the data, or even execute a script. So you can upload a batch or a PowerShell script into the console and have that execute either in local user mode or as the system account. This all occurs directly on the endpoint itself. So you can pretty much do almost anything with the script.
Indeed. One of the more clever ones that also occurs as part of the ability to execute any script you want. You can simply have it execute a script that automatically loads in an end user's web browser, takes them right to an internal page that again describes the data handling procedures. It really gives you another layer of protection in making the data handlers and data users part of your data protection strategy.
We want to make sure that the end users are aware, and since you're able to trigger specific actions on a given classification, take them to the HR resources page in this instance. If you have a PCI DSS compliance rule, take them to the PCI rule page. Very flexible.
Indeed. Pretty powerful too. All right, let's go ahead and jump back over.
You got it.
Slide
porting.
There we go. So as part of a complete enterprise solution, Sensitive Data Manager 9.0 also quickly provides a familiar and easy to use, several easy to use business views, providing ideal reporting. You can see historical multi-dimensional data that can all be generated via the console or via direct database access for aggregated metrics and strategic analysis. So I know on the joining us today, we have some existing customers as well as some new folks. Some of you may have seen these already in Sensitive Data Manager 8.0. There are some updated reports that were introduced as well. A couple of new templates there. Slide. One of the more exciting features that we brought into 9.0, slide please, was the concept of discovery teams. So the ability to discover and classify sensitive information in real time, as we saw with Sensitive Data Watch, for example, is absolutely paramount to being able to manage your sensitive data. However, that takes care of data as it gets created and data that will be created in the future. One of the most important tasks is going through the the large amounts of data that we already have within our environments, and searching large data stores is an absolute necessity as part of your overall data protection strategies. And so discovery teams perform these distributed searches by pooling resources, allows us to reduce the time required to perform discovery across terabytes of data. Anything you want to add on that one, Rob?
That's works well. We had several examples of multiplier effects for time to search being reduced. So it will work not quite at 2x for two machines, but very close. So we do get an interesting decrease in search speed given a large data set.
And as highlighted on the slide there, we can configure those discovery teams to work in many-to-many situations, many-to-one, one-to-many scenarios, again, distributing that workload for throughout the existing terabytes of data that we have, that you would have as well. Slide, please. And so not just the ability to search through those terabytes of data, but also the different locations where that information is going to exist. So we've already traditionally been able to locate all that information throughout your environment in remote shares and so on and so forth. We've extended the capabilities of Sensitive Data Manager 9.0 to include remote cloud capabilities. So we've introduced the first two of many cloud providers with which we integrate now, Box and Dropbox. In the immediate roadmap are Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and a few others. We can expect those updates to arrive in the near future. And the capabilities for the cloud environments all include discovery and classification as well as some protection remediation activities. So we've recognized both as a matter of the direction just our customers have taken, as well as the marketplace, that file synchronization and sharing services continue to grow, and you've either began to move sensitive data into those environments already, or you're thinking about doing it. And if you were thinking about doing it but worried that somehow you would be violating, not being able to control the data that's in that environment, we've extended Sensitive Data Manager 9.0 to address just that. Slide, if you would. So I wanted to take a minute also to kind of walk through our solution, and more importantly, the evolution of and where we are today with Sensitive Data Manager 9.0. Some of you may be more familiar with some of our older products, such as Data Discover and Enterprise DLP, and you've heard us both show and talk about a number of components to SDM, Sensitive Data Manager. We talked a bit about the Sensitive Data Engine, which is the component that allows our customers to locate unique sensitive data in their environment. So all of these components are no longer part of a module system, as was with our very earlier versions. Sensitive Data Manager is all inclusive of all of the capabilities that we've just shown here. And just so everyone's clear, the solution actually went GA, that general availability, back on January 26 as well. So it is currently available. Second question that popped in really quickly. Will Google Docs and other cloud capabilities be added as minor upgrades to 9.0, or will they be in a full release? So those will be minor upgrades. And as time frame goes, I don't want to commit to something kind of broadly here, but I can tell you that they are in the immediate roadmap. So they're already in development. Right, excellent. Slide, please. So let's look at some of the explicit benefits that are part of 9.0 for all products. So Sensitive Data Engine, we walked through that robust discovery engine that has that intelligent search grammar, allowing Rob to have defined specifically what sensitive data in his environment looks like. That could be intellectual property, that could simply be private and confidential documents, anything that falls under those categories that aren't otherwise recognizable or identified by folks that either hadn't created or understand that sensitive information. Those enhancement to workflows to automatically perform remediation actions on results and automatically execute third-party actions or any custom script. Really powerful, extending your overall remediation activities and capabilities throughout the solution. The ability to search metadata. So now we can search within the metadata and custom document properties of existing sensitive data, existing documents as well. Sound like you wanted to say something there, Rob?
I do, and this has some interesting effects for existing classification solutions. We can detect and read alternate data stream classifications from other products, remap them to our own rules. So it has a lot of potential there to detect and reclassify data.
That's an excellent point, actually. As an overall larger part of the strategy and the vision that we see for managing sensitive data, it is to be inclusive of all of the many ways that our customers are currently managing that information in these strategies and pulling them together. So yeah, that's an excellent point. And we've extended some of the database search capabilities, replaced the OLDB with direct database access for all of the popular databases, Oracle, SQL, Sybase, and so on. Someone asked the question, is this a free upgrade from 8 to 9? The answer to that is yes. This is a free upgrade from 8 to 9. You can log into your customer portal right now and grab a copy of this. Some of you, again, may be on varying versions of the solution and or some versions that were not Sensitive Data Manager, whether that was Data Discover Enterprise DLP. Depending upon your existing agreements and contracts, it may or may not be. For that, I would certainly suggest that you reach out and we can have a look, see if that applies in your scenario. But yes, going from 8 to 9 is free. And I guess it was worth mentioning, I may have glossed over that when I highlighted the pre-SDM versus the SDM solution. Going forward, that will always be the case. And anytime we introduce new major functionality as such, it will be part of the core solution. Our goal with Sensitive Data Manager 9.0, along with extending these automated discovery and classification capabilities, was to bring everything under one roof and offer one solution for managing sensitive data with Identity Finder. Slide. So Sensitive Data Manager 9.0, the complete solution. So we really feel that we've kind of come full circle from the inception of many of our solutions to where we are today, the second generation of Sensitive Data Manager 9.0, to kind of pull together the discovery, the classification, the monitoring and protection capabilities of the overall solution. It is firmly our belief that it all starts with accurate discovery, and your ability to protect sensitive data within your organization hinges on that. And Sensitive Data Manager is going to continue to probe both deep within your organization and now also externally into those cloud environments, looking at both structured and unstructured data, looking for PCI, PHI, PII, and now even organizationally unique sensitive information as well. Anything else you wanted to add there, Rob, before we open the floor for comments and questions? Mostly questions, unless the comments are about Rob.
I'm good. Bring on the comments and questions.
And by all means, feel free to send us an email if you want to communicate directly that way, if you want to talk to someone. If you don't already have a direct contact, you can send an email in. You can visit our website and contact us there. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, I want to thank everyone for taking some time to join us today. This recording will be made available, and I will turn it back over to you, Corinne.
On behalf of Identity Finder,